The title of the talk, Mowadat Hussian Rana could not make it, and I am taking exception, and I have received a video recording from him, which he sent last night. And the title of the talk is Hurt People. Hurt People. So you have to really understand what does it mean, hurt people. So I request the audiovisual team to now play the title. His father suddenly fell ill, and that is why he is not here.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, respected chairperson, ladies and gentlemen. Foremost, my apologies that I was supposed to be here this morning to do this presentation for you in person, but on account of unavoidable circumstances, I have not been able to travel, and therefore I'm stuck elsewhere in Pakistan, and therefore sending you this particular presentation to be shown to you online. The topic that I'm supposed to talk to you is achieving life-work balance and living happily and healthily as health professionals. Now, in an international conference of internists who are challenged constantly now for the last almost 1.5 years, you and I know the challenges that all of you have gone through, and not only you, but your families have gone through, largely on account of the COVID-19 stress that you have been facing. You've been the true soldiers. You've been those people who have taken the brunt and who have fought so gallantly on this front, trying to protect all of us. But to do so with a kind of balance which ensures that you remain robust and as great soldiers as you are on day one is what I'm going to try and highlight to you in my presentation of the next 20 odd minutes. Now, one of the themes that I started to talk about some years ago is a statement that I had read as a statement made by a friend in a discussion, which caught my attention when it was spelled out. In that discussion, there was this phrase that was used, and that was hurt people, hurt people. Now you can reflect on this for a few seconds. I will repeat it for you. Hurt people, hurt people. That means that hurt in itself is like an infectious disease. So basically what it means is that if I am interacting with a set of people in my life and I am hurt myself, it is likely that in the days and years to come that I interact with those people, I start to hurt them. And once they are hurt, they will return the favor. And then we will set up a vicious cycle where as those people start to hurt me back and I hurt them back, and this incessant vicious cycle is what is going to generate and make this phrase very familiar, hurt people, hurt people. Now imagine a hurt physician. Imagine a physician who is burned out. And let me assure you that you have all been following Lancet and New England Journal of Medicine, and there are several articles in British Medical Journal that you must have read and I have read, which has shown that during the COVID-19, the burnout in physicians has reached figures of 55%, and in certain hospitals, even 70%. 70% of people suffering from burnout. Now imagine these physicians opting to still continue to work. So in that state of hurt, as burnt out physicians, what is likely to set into motion? Hurt for those that they are likely to come across. Who are they likely to come across? Foremost, other team members. Then, of course, their patients. And then further to that, the families of those patients. And then once this cycle is set to motion of hurt people, hurting people, the hurt is gradually start to come back to me. Sometimes through media, sometimes through hate mails, sometimes through social media, but the hurt will return to me, as that statement implied. So that is what I'm going to try and highlight to you, that are there certain factors or vulnerabilities or challenges that predispose a physician to develop hurt? Are there certain factors which predispose me as a physician, as an internist, to develop hurt early, to develop a burnout early? Of course, there are. And there are many, but I'll just list 5 to you this morning. Number 1, of course, is the type of work that we do. The work stress in itself, which working hours, the distance that you travel from home to the workplace, all the challenges of traveling long distances to your workplace, the circumstances at home, etc., contributing towards the work challenges at your workplace. They're all work stresses. But alongside that, the second extremely important cause is the stress that is produced on account of a compromised family life. Now, if a physician is going to return home after 36 hours of a duty, and here is this wife or a husband or a spouse, set of children waiting for this person who is at the front for the last 36 hours with hardly any communication between them, which often is the case when you are dealing with difficult circumstances, as some of us were in the thick of the battle of COVID-19, particularly in November, December, and so on and so forth last year. This compromised family life, where we went and we wanted to isolate ourselves from the rest of the family on account of trying to protect them, because we were largely exposed to the possibility of carrying the germ ourselves. This compromised family life is the second factor that is likely to contribute towards the hurt that I'm trying to describe to you. The third is not only the burnout, but those stress-related disorders that can result in excessive smoking, that can lead to sometimes even use of alcohol, and in certain circumstances and situations, you and I know that people indulge in far more than smoking and alcohol and take psychostimulants, meth, ice, and whatnot. Now, please don't tell me that you haven't heard of physicians and internists who haven't done any of this. I have, and I'm sure you have come across colleagues who we know have been indulging in these habits that they thought initially would help them deal with the situation better that they were dealing with. Regular use of benzodiazepines, abuse of benzodiazepines, abuse of synthetic opiates, sometimes is rampant in ICU situations, largely because of the accessibility that we have to all these drugs that are potentially hazardous and can lead to very serious stress-related psychiatric disorders, and thus enhance the possibility of more hurt and burnout. Then, of course, you and I know that we as doctors suffer from what we as psychiatrists call the rescuer complex. We've built into us this need to rescue people by taking risks. That's why we are given that particular status in the society of being called the Dr. Sahab, because you're ready to risk yourself, your comforts, your personal and professional duties, where the patient takes the precedence over your personal comfort and your family life. This appreciation that we get and the status at which you are placed on account of being a doctor is something that reinforces the rescuer complex in us. And once you suffer from this small g God complex, that I am here to save lives, which you are, of course, when it crosses a certain limit, where you're not ready to accept failures, accept the death and disability in certain number of portions of patients, in spite of your best efforts, can lead to a serious possibility of burnout and eventually hurt within you that you will carry, and then it is going to start to get transmitted. Last of all, having the burnout, having the hurt, but living in denial. or if not denial, in blame. And thinking that it is always around us, factors around us that are causing this burnout and hurt within us. Rather than being introspective and reflective and looking for those factors that I have highlighted, the earlier 4 factors that operate from within us and are changeable and dynamic enough for you to intervene, we try to push the blame outside and attribute our hurt to those factors. And most of those factors, unfortunately, are those that you do not really control. And therefore, you end up suffering from more and more hurt that gets eventually translated into hurt for those around you. Is there a solution to it? Yes, there is. The first and the foremost is to first of all understand the importance of happiness. The inoculation, the vaccination of happiness in one's life. Now, however, we focus a lot on health, hardly ever think of the possibility of happiness. Happiness, unfortunately, is a phenomenon which most physicians believe would come to them from others, as if it was the role of those people that they're saving lives of, looking after at home and nurturing. Now, it is their duty in return to the favors that they are doing, to the contributions that they're making in the life of their children, wife and parents and friends and so on and so forth, that in return, they must make me now happy. So I will take care of my health somewhat, but I will keep this as the duty of other people, my significant others, to make me happy. And this misconception that I'm not in charge of my happiness, it is others who are in charge of this happiness, makes us more vulnerable. The solution, therefore, is first of all, understand the importance of happiness and its relationship with health. You and I know that you can be very healthy, but if you are not happy, the health is meaningless. If you are distressed, yet you have no real diseases or disability, you would not really enjoy your health. So the significance to make happiness at par with health is something that would then help you invest in happiness as a phenomenon in life. This, to me, is the key message that I want to impart to you, to become in charge of your own happiness. The joy, the bliss, and the pleasure in your life has to come from within you. Yes, the others can contribute towards this great cause, but primarily it is my job to protect my health, but it is also my job to generate happiness for myself. And some of us who then eventually do try to generate happiness within ourselves start to feel guilty about it. They think that if they do things for themselves that give them pleasure, joy, and bliss, then they are probably selfish. Let it be. It's so important to enjoy health that even if you are called a little selfish, it's worth paying the price. This importance and significance of happiness in life is so important and so much that it is worth it to be called a selfish person if it comes to that. Where does this happiness come from? In the life of a doctor, the greatest bliss, I don't know whether you would agree with me or not, but do reflect upon this thought, is when you and I have nothing to do. It's a great feeling. And nothing makes us more happy when we say, it's going to be a Sunday and I would have nothing to do. I would just lie down there on the bed and do nothing the entire day. This dawned upon me when I first visited Maldives. As I got out of the airport in Maldives, I read this beautiful sign sitting there saying, "Welcome to Maldives. Here we have perfected the art of doing nothing." And that's exactly what happens when you go to Maldives. that once you land on a particular hotel or a particular island in Maldives, you virtually have nothing really to do. Everything is taken care of, all bills paid. You just go and chill. Now, this feeling, this recognition that doing nothing sometimes is happiness in itself is a phenomenon that you do understand. But sometimes we do not really invest in it. I'm sure all of you as internists look at the ECG every day. Now you and I know, and probably you know it much better than me, than a psychiatrist, that each ECG has two kinds of waves. Waves that are generated by depolarization, and then those waves that are generated by repolarization. And what is this ECG? It is a symbol of life. The straight line means your patient is gone. So that means there is a significance and importance of repolarization in the ECG. Similarly, if you just use that as an example, our life also needs a state of repolarization before it goes into a state of depolarization. How do I translate that into reality? Translating it is to decide from today that you and I are going to divide our time, our energies, our spaces in life, our mind into two states every day. Every day. A state of repolarization and a state of depolarization. We will call the state of repolarization, which prepares the heart to go into contraction and to get depolarized. We will call this the being mode. And I'll tell you in a minute what do you do in the being mode. And the depolarization state, which we would call the doing mode. So every day, if you have a doing mode, but you do not have a being mode, it is like a heart in systole constantly. Is it a possibility of a heart that stays in systole to survive? Would it not lead to a straight line? Exactly the same way, a physician who constantly remains in the doing mode, who's constantly working, is bound to be in that systole constantly. And we know the concept of systolic heart failure or heart failure in systole. Now, this doing mode has to be followed by being mode. Now, what do you do in the being mode? Other than doing nothing, what else can you do? Well, the first thing that you can start to learn is the concept of mindfulness. I leave this word with you for you to look at some videos when you return home tonight and learn the skill of mindfulness, which was started as early as about 500 BC by Buddha. This concept of mindfulness came from Buddha, but since then has been practiced by men of wisdom through the ages, and even today has become a great skill in which this state of mindfulness produces alpha waves in the brain, and the neurons seem to be in a state of far more happiness and relaxation when an individual is in a state of mindfulness. Learn it as a skill. And when you are doing nothing, mindfulness is one of the activities that you can undertake. Similarly, meditation. Of course, the techniques of meditation can vary from the meditative techniques that you may learn from the net, or even the way you actually offer your prayers or recite the book of wisdom can be a state of meditation for you and generate that same alpha wave in your mind of relaxation. Learning how to reflect, how to relax your body, how to scan your body for the presence of tension, and how to drive that tension out, what we call the state of body scanning. These are some of the skills that would help you now go into the eventual state of the being mode, which is sleep. Unfortunately, I know of several physicians who would have to take a tablet of bromazepam or alprazolam at night to go to sleep because they have never taken out time to learn techniques of mindfulness, reflection, meditation, relaxation, body scan, and so on and so forth. All techniques of learning how to do nothing. And this state, I'm sure, is going to help you revitalize yourself eventually to go into the doing mode. But I must redefine the doing mode for you as well. Doing does not mean just work. Please include exercise, sports, socialization, and spending quality time with your family as things that you do. This is as much important as looking after your patients. And this is the investment in the happiness that I'm talking about. So doing also needs to be redefined by a physician who is trying to highlight in his life the significance and importance of happiness. So in conclusion, may I say, my dear colleagues, that happiness and health have to be seen by all of you as integral partners in your pursuit to make yourself resilient to burnouts and to live a far more productive and a happier and a healthy existence. In that, I would very strongly request you to not only learn the skills of mindfulness and the 7 Qs, and to learn teamwork and leadership skills and all the rest of it that you go and learn these in various kinds of workshops and enhance your skills as a physician, but also to learn the concept of healthy personal and internet-based relationships. In my opinion, one of the biggest challenges these days for health professionals is that because of the scarcity of the time available to them, they go back and spend a lot of time on WhatsApp, on various kinds of other social media that I'm not very familiar with, including your TikTok and Insta and whatnot. So may I request you to start to learn a little at a deeper level the importance and significance of internet-based relationships in your life, which can become a huge source of unhappiness in your life. I have seen several breakdowns of marriages. I've seen relationships breaking down between children and their parents, spouses, parents and their offsprings on account of poorly judged internet-based relationships, which I see today as a major challenge in the presence, in the persistence of happiness, in generating happiness in one's life. My other request to you in conclusion is, please invest into personal happiness yourself on the lines that I have just drawn for you as a recommendation. This, I'm sure, is going to make you a person who can completely change the paradigm of hurt people, to a happy and healthy physician who is capable of then making people around him or her happier and healthy. May it be your colleagues, may it be members in your household, may it be those people that you interact in the wards and your patients and their families eventually. Make sure that you are happy, you're healthy, and those around you are therefore consequently not hurt, but happy and healthy. Thank you very much.